The UK government is reportedly considering limiting foreign students and their dependents in a bid to curb rising immigration. Reports claim foreign students may be barred if they don't secure an admission to the country's top universities. Official statistics this week showed net migration rose to an estimated record of 504,000 in the year to June. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's spokesperson says the Prime Minister is fully committed to bringing net migration down and that the government is considering all options to make sure the immigration system is delivering. UK Home Secretary Suella Braverman says that the current level of migration has put pressure on accommodation and housing supply, health, education and other public services. Overseas students and their dependents form a sizable chunk of people coming into the United Kingdom. Data says 476,000 students came to the UK with 116,000 dependents this year. And for more on this, Sanam Arora, Chairperson, National Indian Students and Alumni Union UK, is joining me live from London now. Sanam, what do you make of these reports that the UK government's considering reducing numbers in some way when it comes to international students?
I think it's not great to read the sort of headlines one is reading, but I do think that the Prime Minister is a balanced and a reasonable man. I think he's a man of economics. And I think when you look at the net benefits that international students bring to the United Kingdom, I mean, just simple statistics that speak volumes, like net revenue of £30 billion into the British economy annually. For every one international student, 2 jobs are generated, majority of the benefits of which are domestically felt. You know, international students in large part subsidize the research that goes on in British universities. I just think, given that international education is one of our largest exports, a third or the fourth largest export that the United Kingdom has, I don't see a lot of this translating into policy. I think, you know, the Prime Minister is a reasonable man. I think there will be hopefully something innovative on the table that we do see. Of course, it's not great to read the sort of, and this may be a journalistic thing in terms of the words that are being used in as headlines. But I do hope that we take a more balanced view of how we can best utilize international students and the whole higher education ecosystem for the UK, because I do think it's one of the strongest exports we have for the world and something that we should cherish and really, really support.
And what about that idea of restricting it to the top universities in some way? What would that mean for the education sector and for foreign students trying to come to the UK?
Sorry, I lost the first half of your question, Ollie. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, of course. Just that idea that the government may look at restricting foreign students to offers from the top universities. How would that impact students, but also the education sector?
Yeah, I think the question is, how does one define top? And, how do you take a view? Whenever there is a targeted intervention of any sort in any policy, you look at targeting it in a way that serves all interests across the board. So my hope, my desire and my recommendation would be that we look at, rather than an arbitrary measure of what a top university may or may not be, because actually if you look at things like rankings, a university that ranks number 10 in the UK overall may actually rank very low on a particular subject, on a particular course, on a particular department. So actually, how do you cut that across? And in terms of a targeted intervention, my suggestion would be that we look at skills partnerships with countries around the world, countries like India. For instance, there is a critical skills shortage in the UK on STEM vacancies. There is a critical skills shortage in the UK and resourcing and labour shortages around in particular areas in the country where the government has a strong levelling up agenda. So actually, I would think that if we are able to come up with an innovative policy proposition that does look at the concerns that the government may or may not have around migration figures and balance that with things like targeted intervention in those areas where actually there are these shortages of labor, in those industries where are these shortages of labor, like tourism, like hospitality, like healthcare, nursing, medicine. I think that, we could actually get something good out of this. But I think we need to really look at this definition of TOP and really think about, is that the best definition of a targeted intervention, or can we think more creatively and more innovatively to serve best the interests of the higher education sector, the international students whose welfare should be a pretty top priority in the UK as well as the government's perhaps rightful concerns around migration.